blast through this. It's my pleasure next to introduce Garrett, who is our co-chair of our Timewarp. It's a fun fact, Garrett did not even attend CalSO. But it wasn't me. But certainly he's done plenty for CalSO since then. So
Sarah and Kristen besides the gap there, like, you know, they're doing pretty well to MC. Why don't we give them another one? I also want to note the co-chairs are actually Patrick and Devin for this wonderful event. So I have the distinct pleasure of moderating a panel of former CalSO counselors and leaders. And so let's bring them up. We got Jay, we got Mandy, we got Donna, and we got Robert.
Before we start the panel, and as they get ready, I've been reminded that last call for the booze, so 15 minutes before 9 o'clock is the bar closes.
All right. So I think we have a little bit of mic history right now. But either way, let me introduce myself. My name is Garrett Ng. I am a 15th year statistics major. From Toronto, Canada. Well, Canadians. All right. We have four wonderful, awesome panelists, and if they can come up to the mic and introduce themselves, the years they did CalSO, their positions, and what did you have. So why don't you go ahead?
Jay Miller. I'm from the 60s. And I'm a rabbi. I was the rabbi at UCSD, SDSU area for 20 years, and it was a campus life. It was wonderful. Also did orientation programs down there. It was great. I was in 66, 67, and I'll put in a little snippet right now to get it on the table, because there's been this question of what happened before Peter. And so I know, because I was there. There's a little bit of a point to make, and it feeds into what Chrissy was talking about in a nice way. But up until 65, Cal Prep was 500 students, and it was an ASUP program. In 66, Chancellor Hines decided it ought to be a university program, so I was hired to work 66, 67. We went from 500 to 3,000, from 30 counselors to 200, and that's what I did, was coordinate that in those years.
I'm Mandy Adolph-Four. I was a counselor in 88, a coordinator in 89, and worked on the staff in 90. And I consult and am an executive coach with higher ed leaders and nonprofit leaders.
Hi everybody, my name is Donna Navarre. I was in CalSO 2001,
2002,
2002, and Parent Corps 2003. I'm currently serving as the advising director for the College of Agricultural and Environmental Sciences at UC Davis.
I don't think I really need this. I'm Robert. I was a leader in 2013. The head reservations clerk in 2014. And then a coordinator in 2015.
All right, so we have a lot of history, and that mic is totally a placebo. So we have about like 20 minutes for this panel, and I asked all the panelists to do quick, short, 2-minute answers. And we'll start the embarrassing questions, shall we? So the first question I have is, what made you apply for CalSO? Does anyone like Mandy?
So my very good friend said, you should apply for this job. The director's really great. It was Marty, and it's a cush summer thing.
Yeah!
And I hadn't gone to CalSO, so I really had no idea.
I didn't like my CalSO.
It's okay.
And so that's why I applied. I was a first generation college student, and my mom and I came, and we were fish out of water. And it was my goal as a CalSO counselor to find other fish out of water and make them feel a part of the group. And so that's why I
actually joined for much of the same reason. I didn't like my CalSO counselor. No, they were a great CalSO counselor, not what I was looking for out of the program. And I was just like, I think I can help students just as much as they did, if not more. So I ended up applying because I also needed money for my tuition the next year. So, sorry. Love the family now, though.
Well, I simply did Cal Prep because I was part of the gang of folks doing stuff on campus that were doing that program at that time, and I just thought it was a great way to spend a weekend with a lot of new students and have a good time, and I did.
When you all become CalSO counselors or leaders, and you start going through the training process, what do you remember most about training as a member of the CalSO staff? Like, you know, the class, the retreat, Camp CalSO, anything. Or do you remember anything?
I remember most, as I just mentioned, I never went through CalSO, so what I remember the most was the semester-long class and getting exposed to so much of the campus that I should have paid attention to a few years earlier. So I think just the breadth of training that went on, the depth that we went into, and then being exposed to students from so many different parts and niches on the campus was really powerful.
Well, I'll say that there actually was no training. Because I'm older and can't remember. Very little. We had 30 of us. We're doing 500 students, all in Unit 3, for a weekend. And we were all campus leaders, we knew the campus. So we had one that we loved Cal. And we had experienced Cal as leaders, like all of you. We did not have the professionalism that you have today. Not the stuff that goes into what Chris described about concern about different segments from campus and concern about the various questions that come up. We were doing that then, and remember, this was 2 years after the free speech movement that we were doing this. I mean, it started before that. So we were dealing with lots of issues, but we were doing it with our own love of Cal and our own experience as student leaders. And that was great, but it wasn't enough, and that's for sure.
Just add one story. The first intro to CalSO, where all those CalSO leaders and counselors met, I sat next to a woman who said, "You should be a health worker." I'm like, "What's a health worker?" And the woman's name is Dawn LeVar. And because I joined the health worker program, I stayed in healthcare, so it totally shifted my entire career at that first meeting. All right, so let's get into some juicy stuff. What was the most embarrassing moment during CalSO orientation? Feel free to include
I can say mine. So, as you know, well, as some of you probably know, we used to have a slideshow, and it would be everyone's faces and names and majors and everything, and you would run down to the front with like your clipboard and everything, and that's how you were dismissed. One of the programs, one of my students decided to high five my clipboard. So it flew out of my hand, and I tried to go back and grab it, and I slid forward, and in front of 700 students, I fell flat on my face. I then later noticed that the 2 pens that I had in my pocket had broken, and all down my pants leg there was a nice black stain for the rest of the program. Yeah, because my course didn't let me go back and change. The entire day I got to have a nice black stain on my pant leg, which then stayed on my skin for a few days. So the next day when I wore shorts, I had a nice black spot all over.
I'm going to borrow my embarrassing story from Garrett. So our year, and I don't know if this was true for many of your years, but the coordinator team definitely had a rotation of pranking each other. And so for a program, Garrett thought we were done because I'm not so much of a prankster. But what we did at, was it an FYE? It was at an FYE. Garrett was introducing folks or closing up or something like that. And I run down, it was in 155 to an L, I believe, and get down on one knee and propose to him in front of 500. And the academic year after that, we had people coming up to us together and individually congratulating us on our engagement.
It ruined my senior year.
No, simply to say that you did me a great favor by going by decades, and I'm the only person here from the 60s. I had no embarrassing moments.
So one of the things about CalSO is that you're living together in the dormitories, and it's kind of like a reality show. So, well, what are your favorite memories about living together in the dorm during the summer?
Well, we didn't live in a dorm. We lived in AOPI. And I think just the best part of that was all the dynamics. So it was a little bit chaotic because I don't know how many of us actually had been in sororities before we lived in sorority homes before we lived there. So it was quite fun having 40 of us all there. We cooked a lot of meals, we had a lot of parties, we did a lot of things we probably shouldn't have done. But I think my best memories, and there was lots of people here from the years that I was involved, were the individual moments and conversations and small group outings that we did. And I don't know how we even managed to do all this because the schedule was so packed, but there were special times with so many different people that have really impacted my whole life. So.
Alright, so we got two more questions. So, so you're a council leader or counselor during the summer, and then you come back to campus, and you see your council leads. What was that like? Were you like a rock star? Did people worshiping you? What was that experience like? Why are you shaking your head, Donna? Nothing?
I would say, yeah, you have a lot of people approaching you, and then I know that like during the first week I kind of like didn't remember all my students, so like if someone came up and was just like, oh my gosh, do you remember me? I'd be like, yeah, you were my student, right? And someone approached me and they were like, oh, do you remember me? And I was just like, yeah, you were my student, right? And it turns out we had 4 classes together. So yes, you're very popular, but you don't necessarily remember everyone else.
I remember that very vividly because what I remember is students who I met during the course of the program, and that was a lot of them in leadership of people who had particular issues. And what I remember is them not so much seeing me afterwards, although I did and I heard these stories, was referring them to individual people on campus who I could say, hey, in your first week, go see this person, or you got that issue, go see that person, and then seeing them later and have them tell me they did that. That was the best, and I remember that movie.
So the final question I have for the panel is, how has CalSO, the experience, like influenced your life after Cal? Feel free.
I'll get a little cheesy here, but CalSO really did change my life. I have friends in the room who were at my wedding last year, And aside aside from lifelong friendships, I have to say a special shout out to our beloved Patrick Johnson. I posted this on his Facebook page recently. We were walking, it was the end of my cord summer, I had just graduated. We were on Bancroft and Telegraph crossing the street going somewhere. And I remember saying, what's going to happen after this? This was the best job of my life. I peaked at 21. Like, what's going to happen? And he looked at me and he was like, well, what do you think I do for a living? And I was like, oh, you get paid? Like, you can actually do this for a living? And that really opened my mind to the world of higher education and really dedicating my life to serving students like he did. And yeah, it really changed the course of my life.
It was singularly the experience for my life. Number one, that experience was one of the driving forces for me wanting to be a rabbi and being engaged in the community in a way that people were engaged with me, and I just wanted that experience. But it'll live with people who do it, as I said, this summer, and I think with all of us in our lives. And I ran into someone in Seattle in a Top Pot, if you know Seattle, donuts, and she had a Cal shirt on. And so I went up to her and I said, hey, you go to Cal. She said, I'm starting. And I said, all right, when you get there, if you want to use my email, here's my email if you need anything. I mean, it's there forever. And everybody you meet out there that you hear is coming to Cal. I mean, it's just it's part of your DNA, and it's wonderful.
I worked at the national level on higher education for a long time, and many of you may be aware that there's quite a bit of criticism right now for higher education, that students aren't prepared for jobs. And one of the things that I think is so important about CalSO and being a counselor and being engaged in student leadership opportunities on campus is that you're getting job skills at that very moment. That's right. And sometimes that's not translated, so maybe as leaders and professional staff in higher ed, we need to help our student leaders make that translation so they can go out and say, these are the job skills I learned on campus in these roles, and I'm ready, because I know that for so many of us, Marty was such a great mentor. And the leadership skills and the job skills and the be on time skills that we struggled with, I can say personally, in those days have been formational and transformational. And you know, we got to tell the world that the work that's happening on campuses is good work. It's the greatest preparation that people need, so dealing with people and understanding diversity and knowing how to talk to each other. And this is a problem in higher ed. It's a problem for higher ed institutions. You know how much Berkeley has been cut over the years. It's happening nationally. So the more we can advocate for experiences like this, the better.
Yeah.
All right, with that, thank you so much for our